I think certain people are meant to meet, to fight side by side. You may see one another sooner than you think.
So that was a lie.
Shared universes have become all the rage this decade. We see them forming in so many shows and blockbuster movies that they're basically now a staple of the entertainment media. One of the biggest studios in the world right now is built on a whole shared universe that's been going on since 2008. Nowadays, if a studio has more than one property in their catalog, they are bound to have them share the same universe or just cross over in some way. But what if I told you that Cartoon Network had their own idea for a little action cinematic universe that they were going to do before Hollywood made it their own little infinite money glitch, before it became all over saturated. Now, Cartoon Network is no stranger to having their shows cross over, of course. We've seen it happen with Johnny Bravo when he met the Scooby Gang, Kids Next Door met Dexter's Laboratory, and also Billy and Mandy, and even the newer shows like OKKO, Teen Titans Go, they all have their own crossovers. But this time it would have been different, as Cartoon Network, during their run of dropping elite action cartoons, weren't just planning something simple like a small little multiverse crossover. They were planning something ambitious, with wanting to unite some of their iconic heroes and give them their own universe to share. A sort of CNAU, a little Cartoon Network action universe if you want to say. The heroes in question being the Secret Saturdays, Sym Bionic Titan, Generator Rex, and of course, Ben 10. Hearing that these 4 shows were all meant to share the same universe now, have probably broken your heart into a million pieces, and I know, trust me, when I first heard this too, I fell to my knees like the law came. And now you're probably wondering, well, why did it not happen? What happened to it? And how would it have even worked? I mean, this is a lot to juggle with these 4 shows if you know how they operate. Well, when Cartoon Network decided to change the direction of the network, these plans were unfortunately scrapped. And even though nothing was ever officially teased by Cartoon Network that this was happening, some creator statements released over the years and some well-placed references in some of these shows seemingly help confirm that these shows were all meant to be in the same universe at some point, until things were unfortunately changed. Before I explain how we lost such a great idea, I want to remind you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as 85% of you who watch my videos are not subscribed, and I am on the road to 20k subs, so subscribing would only get me closer to that goal, and 85% kind of like a crazy number. Let's try to fix that, guys, please. Alright, thank you. To the surprise of no one, Benton was supposed to be the catalyst for this shared universe, kind of like how Iron Man was for the MCU, and I definitely believe that, as the crossovers he had with Rex and the Saturdays basically showed that he was meant to spearhead this whole universe. Seeds were being planted for this all the way back in Ben 10 Classic, where a pop-up trivia from the episode Game Over listed Weird World as one of Ben's favorite shows. Weird World is the name of a show ran by the Saturday's main antagonist, Vivi Argos. He would talk about cryptids on that show. The most interesting detail about this pop-up trivia was that it was added in an enhanced version of the episode as special content for Ben 10 Week, which premiered in April of 2008, while the Secret Saturdays didn't premiere until October of 2008, meaning that all this was being planned behind the scenes. And while that may just seem like a coincidence, it actually might not be, because the creator of Secret Saturdays, Jay Stevens himself, said that these shows were always meant to be in the same universe.
The Secret Saturdays were always meant to be in the same universe as Ben 10. There are references within the original Secret Saturdays to the Ben 10 universe.
This was made even more clear when the Secret Saturday show started to premiere, as the show has a lot of Ben 10 Easter eggs. The first of which comes in the 7th episode, Van Rook's Apprentice, where the Saturdays are looking through their criminal database, and you can see images of Enoch, Hex, and Dr. Animo. They also appear on the criminal database once again in the 13th episode, Cryptid vs. Cryptid, where we see the Saturdays cycling through their database on their little watch things that were always cool to me. The show snuck in one more reference in their 5th episode, Guess Who's Going to Be Dinner. Arthur Beeman believes he sees a UFO, and he mentions Galvan Prime.
Sweet Galvan Prime.
Galvan Prime, of course, is the homeworld azimuth and gray matter species, the Galvans. Now, I know for some that a few references and Easter eggs and even a creator statement isn't enough to really convince people that these shows do take place in the same universe, and I really wish I had like a big pile of just like a 30-minute episode to really show you that these 2 shows in fact take place in the same universe, but I really wish I just had that, because that would just be all the proof I needed. Thankfully, they show up in Ben 10 Omniverse. Ben 10 Omniverse brought the Saturdays back and had them team up with Ben and Rook to stop Argos and Animo. Animo, of course, was one of the villains who were showing up on the criminal database in the Saturday show, so that's a nice little detail. This episode, of course, canonized the fact that these 2 shows do in fact take place in the same universe, and while the episode isn't the best due to some questionable redesigns for the Saturday's main attire, and also a fuck ton of Drew Saturday flirting from Ben, and while I do understand it, my brother, that is your homie's mom, you really should relax. Also, Duncarillo has kind of like muddled up the whole validity of this episode being canon with tweets that say say the Saturdays were never a part of Ben 10's universe, and it's hard to call it canon when it won't happen again, and we can't mention it in other episodes. Now, these are definitely some confusing statements since they have a whole crossover episode together, but I think these statements from Duncan refer more to just the behind the scenes things like rights issues and etc. Plus, I've also seen fans share a similar thought process in regards to talking about like Heroes United, asking if it's canon since Ben never references the events of that crossover, even though like that Ben is clearly Prime Ben. But me personally, and what I believe is true, is that the Saturdays are indeed canon to Ben 10, like without a doubt. Now, from the information provided, you can kind of tell that the intention was to always have Ben 10 and the Secret Saturdays share the same universe from basically the beginning of the Secret Saturdays production. So that begs the question, how does Generator Rex and Sym Bionic Titan fit into this whole equation? Well, we know about Ben and Rex's ultra smash hit crossover Heroes United, where it was subtly teased that they would meet again, as hinted at by Agent 6. And they kind of did meet again in the one-off comic that you could technically count as canon. It's really up to you if you want to do that. However, the Ben and Rex crossovers happen due to dimension travel, basically showing that they don't take place in the same universe whatsoever, considering that Ben had to hop to Rex's universe to meet him. Now, I don't know what would have happened in the future, as it was said that they were supposed to cross over more, but unfortunately, since the shows had different toy licenses, they weren't allowed to ever cross over again and just had to opt for this small crossover special. I don't know about y'all, but it's kind of crazy how much hold the toy companies have over the animation industry. Like, they can just take away these really cool ideas and just show from us that the toys don't sell well. So if you're like 10 or 11 or even grown and you still like, buy some of these toys if you got to, bro. Like, I don't want to lose more cool action shows, man. It's starting to hurt. Now, Sym Bionic Titan in this group are the odd ones out though, as you may have noticed so far that it doesn't have a connection to any other show I've mentioned, and the only info we have regarding it was in an interview the Inktank had with Jay Stevens. When he was asked about the whole shared universe thing, Stevens mentioned Sym Bionic Titan was in the plans for this universe, but that's the only time we ever heard about its inclusion.
Before CN made the content shift away from the success of Ben 10 to live stuff, they were initially building an action universe, which means that along with Ben 10, Generator X, and Sym Bionic Titan, they were always intended to be part of the same world.
This quote is the only evidence we have that Sym Bionic Titan was in the plans for this shared universe, but I feel like their inclusion with or without solid evidence isn't hard to believe, as Sym Bionic Titan was the only other show airing around the time that wasn't an existing property. Clone Wars, Brave and the Bold, and Young Justice would have never been considered to be in this shared universe, so it's easy to believe that Sym Bionic Titan, a show about alien teens on Earth battling space monsters, would fit alongside nicely with Ben 10, Rex, and the Saturdays, especially with the interview statement that Duncan Rouleau had earlier this year, where he said that the dream has always been to form a large Cartoon Network universe like the MCU, but with characters that make sense. With Duncan's quote and Jay Stevens mentioning Sym Bionic Titan, this all illustrates that this was in fact a real idea. As I said, these four shows all fit alongside each other kind of nicely. The Sym Bionic Titan info wasn't the only notable piece of information Stevens dropped in his response in this interview. He revealed that this universe and its plans were scrapped when Cartoon Network started to transition into live action content. For those who are unaware, CNN Real was a programming block that started airing on Cartoon Network in 2009, where basically only live action shows were played. Shows such as Destroy, Build, Destroy, Dude What Would Happen, and a few others were made for this block in an intent for Cartoon Network to try and compete with Nickelodeon and Disney Channel. This served as an absolute failure for them though, as of course people disliked the fact that Cartoon Network wasn't airing cartoons as much. The era ended up coming to an end in 2011, and during the slow decline of it, this is when most of these shows were either debuting or ending their run. Secret Saturdays aired its final episode on January 30th, 2010. Ben 10 Alien Force ended March 26, 2010, but would then be followed up quickly by Ultimate Alien on April 23rd, 2010. Generator Rex would air the same day as Ultimate Alien, and Sym Bionic Titan would air September 17th, 2010. With all these shows being so close together, it is very likely that there were plans to have them all connect. It's not out of the realm of possibility to think that Rex and Sym Bionic Titan probably had early drafts where they confirmed that they share a world with the pre-existing heroes of Ben 10 and the Saturdays. However, with CNN Real being a year in during the 2010s, the idea of this shared universe may have conflicted with the new identity too much and would have been a lot to juggle for the network. So the plans fell flat and the network continued to promote CNN Real. Well, it is just some speculation on my end. I can definitely see it being the case. I mean, it can't be easy to try and juggle promoting live action content to then try and now promote this whole cartoon cinematic universe. I mean, they were gonna go head to head if you tried to do both at the same time. So opting for the one that you have just launched and think will help you compete with your competitors is something that I believe Cartoon Network did. And with the fact that Ben 10 crossed over with both the Saturdays and Generator Rex after this run ended, kind of also shows that these plans were in fact real. Heroes United premiered in 2011, and TGIS, the Ben 10 and Saturdays crossover, aired in 2013. Both of these coming well after the whole Seeing in the Real era ended. And I believe them doing these crossovers were a way to try to follow up the idea they had, just not to the biggest degree that they wanted, and not also including one of the 4 pillars of this whole animated universe thing they were trying to do in Sym Bionic Titan. There would have to have been a big focus on something like this, as bringing together 4 whole shows is a big task. I believe that Man of Action, who would have had a part in this, seeing as they made Ben 10 and Rex, would have wanted it to be a sort of big event, like how comics treat their big events, as Man of Action has a history in the comic industry. Even though Heroes United premiered after the plans were scrapped and dropped, I believe that this crossover though kind of gave us a glimpse at what this whole big universe could have been like, especially in its title. Heroes United to me was always a unique tagline to use for just one crossover. I think this tagline was meant for, or was the working title for when these 4 shows would have crossed over and eventually shared a universe together. Cartoon Network Heroes United would have been the name for this universe, or just the simple special episode they had. I imagine that Ben 10 would have taken the lead in this crossover, as it's the biggest show of the 4, and Ben did go on to have ties with both Rex and Saturdays already. I struggle on finding out how this would have played out though, other than just a simple multiverse story. Generator Rex with the Nanite Plague and Providence agents make it hard to retroactively say that these worlds have always been connected, as we never see a Providence agent or the mention of a worldwide Nanite Plague in either Ben 10 or Secret Saturdays. And the same can be said about Sym Bionic Titan. With the large-scale Power Ranger mech battles they have, it's hard to believe that famous superhero Ben 10 or government agent Rex Salazar would just let these happen without getting involved or finding out what's going on in general. It's why I believe that this whole shared universe idea was conceptualized before Generator Rex and Sym Bionic Titan even aired, as it would have been easier to just write the shows into the shared universe. Including Rex and Sym Bionic Titan into the world of Ben 10 and Secret Saturdays would probably have to be done in a sort of dimension merging thing like they did in the Secret Wars comic in 2015, but that's like hindsight, because you know these shows came out before that comic, so maybe they have to do like the 90s version, I guess. I just think this would be a nice way to reference and lean into the comic book elements that these shows had, along with the writers have experience in. Or you know, just do a simple multiverse story with them being brought together due to some meddling by Eon. You know, he does the whole dimension stuff. That could also work. The fact that it would probably have to be a whole multiverse story just kind of upsets me, because I would much rather prefer an episode where we just see the main characters naturally cross paths, like how most superheroes do who live in the same world. Maybe Ben, Gwen, and Kevin are sent to explore the hometown of Lance, Alana, and Octus to investigate all the alien activity that goes on there. We can see the 2 teams eventually meet and maybe even battle each other for a bit, because that always has to happen. But as the threat grows larger, whether it's their main villains teaming up or some new original threat coming to Earth that's emerging, we will then see the Saturdays and Generator Rex get involved, and all of them come together to save their world. But like I just mentioned, these shows have too many details that are integral to their story to just retroactively include them and make them all connect. I mean, that would be like shoving a circle block into the square hole. It just won't work, especially if you try to force it. I could talk and speculate about how this universe could have came together properly for like hours and hours, as I just think this universe would have had so much potential, and it's a shame we'll never get to see any of it come to life. With shared universes being so popular today, I just wish we would have got to see one centered around some of Cartoon Network's biggest action shows that star some young heroes. Who knows, maybe if they did go through with this whole shared universe idea, it would have been a massive success, and maybe we would have gotten more seasons for some of these shows. I mean, Ben 10 obviously got its long run, but maybe this could have gotten more seasons for the Secret Saturdays, Generator Rex, and Sym Bionic Titan especially, because that show needs some more love. If you haven't seen it, please go watch Sym Bionic Titan, bro. Or rewatch it if it's been a minute since you've seen it. It's a blast. Anyway, comment down below how you would have felt if these shows all did share the same universe. Would you have wanted them to? Would you have not wanted them to? How would you want it to happen? And you know, let me know all that down below in the comment section below, as well as hitting the like button. And don't forget to subscribe, of course. You know, if you guys like this video, if you guys like me talking about these shows, maybe I'll talk about them some more. I do have plans to talk about Generator Rex some more and some Secret Saturdays. But hey, if y'all want to hear me talk about Sym Bionic Titan and stuff too, you know, you got to show me that like button in the comment section down below. But with that being said, it's been your boy Dan, the Boy Wonder, signing out. Peace.